So as promised, we've got an HMV Stereomaster 2419. I'm in the Tango Towers Chapel. We've had to clear off this only work table we can accommodate radiograms on. We've got this coming from a customer in London. We've got another one coming in from a customer in Austria next week. So I really need to get onto this. Now, one of the things I'm disappointed about, and I'll just move the camera a bit closer if I can, are scratches on this, and I hope that this has been like this at the customer's house and it's not something which has been generated in transit. Now the other lid is missing. It's not missing, it's in my house because this has been turned into a trinket box, which is just so bizarre. So there's a wooden tray which is shoved in the top, which is beautifully made. This looks like it's beautifully done in mahogany. Why would he take both the left-hand speakers out, which is your main channel on anything that's stereo, and leave the right-hand channel, which is the other channel? I just don't get this. I just hope the cartridge works. I'm going to plug this in. We don't normally do that with Stereomasters, which come in for service, but I want to check before we start spending money big time on this. I want to check the cartridge works because I don't like customers to have a 45 quid surprise at the end of it when the cartridge doesn't work. So we're going to plug this in. I'm happy to do that, with it being the 1976 model, and I want to just hear that the cartridge works. If I can find a pair of headphones, I'll be able to prove whether the amplifier is actually working at the moment on both channels. So what we've got to do is provide 2 tweeters and 2 woofers. I can't just change, well, the woofers are always knackered in these anyway, is the best word. The cone surrounds are rubberized and they fail, whereas none of the other Stereomasters happen like that because they're not the ones which have the foam surround. The tweeters we'll replace with piezo tweeters, but it's a shame because they've gone and lost the speakers, haven't they? I do not know what we're going to do with this woodwork. I may have to try and drill large holes to let the speakers give their sound out. I don't think I'm going to be able to remove the timber, but at least we'll be able to take the hinges away from the trinket lid. I don't lift this lid to show you because the supporting arm, oh, that's not great. It's transported itself with the stylus in the middle of the thing. That's not good. This has come away, and yeah. So we're going to be very careful. So there's a lot of woodwork's going to have to happen to this. What I'm here to do right now is I want to hear if that cartridge is working at all. And I'm also going to put this on its side on a blanket, and we're going to take the bottom off and get that chassis out, and Mr. Chippy's going to be recapping that chassis. Right, so we've got somewhere with this Stereomaster with the woodwork, which is actually the scariest part of it. So what Mr. Chippy decided to do, and I'll bring the camera around, because this has had a wooden liner beautifully fitted to make this into a trinket box. Of course, it's blocked off the speaker aperture and the original baffle. Now, we can use this as a baffle, that's not a problem. So we had a bit of a heads together with this, and what we decided was the best course of action was to drill this out. And so what Mr. C did was to load a 3mm drill bit, and what he's done is to drill round between the slats and without damaging the slats, because he's had a piece of insulation on the drill bit, and so the slats are absolutely perfect. He managed to drill round, and if I can show you what he took out, what to give it to the customer as a souvenir. And then he's gone round on the inside using a rotary cutting tool, and he spent 2¼ hours doing it. No, can't for the life of me see what's happened to the piece that's come out. So now I'll just show you the inside. So the first problem we have is the brace here, which limits the travel of the isn't around, is it? Have we taken part of that off? I expect we have. Don't like having that on its back like that. There's supposed to be a slide there. I don't know where. I don't remember whether it's come with it or not, but I'm sure we can do something because I know where there's a scrap one of these. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to pile some stuff up behind it so that this isn't put to any strain. So we'll just find some organ parts to put behind it. Because as you know, we're currently on this pipe organ job in here, and we really shouldn't be fitting jobs like this in, and yet we've got another one coming next week. I'm going to find something to prop it up. This coat crate. There we go. That shouldn't go that far back. Right, so he's got it locked down for transit. Well, he's got one side locked down for transit. The other screw is actually under that plate there. So that should have been locked down. So just for those people who don't know, transit screw, but he missed that one. So we need to take the platter off, and at least it goes round, and the circlip, there is a circlip there. I'm going to be going backwards and forwards between here and the electronics workshop because half the tools aren't going to be available here. So that should lift straight off. And it's a metal type of platter, which of course is the better type. We're going to take that out. There isn't a manual spindle. There should be a manual spindle, but there's only the automatic spindle. We take that out to clean it. We need to take the auto mechanism cam off. These can be a bit of a swine. And this one isn't, because it's this grease that's got to come off. So the other bugbear on these is this. And what you have, the arm goes so far into a record, comes within about an inch of the end of the grooves, and then the arm starts, the needle starts jumping. Click, 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 because it can't go any further because the grease is congealed on here. This isn't so bad. It honestly isn't. But I doubt that this was working, and I certainly wasn't going to try it without service attention. We'll be taking that washer off and cleaning off the gunk and then putting some light oil on rather than grease. And we need to take the idler off. Circlip there. There's a thrust washer, fibre thrust washer. So that's a bit tight on there. So that's the thrust washer off, that's the idler off. And you know, that's in reasonable condition. It's not, I've never changed one because what would I change it for? You know, it's gone are the days when we could just order another one from BSR. So that has stripped down as far as we need to, really. And all I now need to do is to find some oil. I'm going to go in the organ workshop next door and see whether it will save me a trip to the house or not. The answer was there isn't any oil or WD-40 in the organ workshop, but there is methylated spirits. So rather than using isopropyl alcohol, we use methylated spirits, which will work exactly the same for what we're going to do. And that's to clean some of this gunk off. I want to clean this idler. So certainly got some dirt off there, and this makes all the difference. So I've now done that on 2 separate pieces of paper. I'm going to go around the rim, the inside of the rim, to make sure there's no grease causing that idler to slip as it tries to turn the rim. And I can't see any dirt's come off that. So make sure there's nothing on the centre there. Make sure there's nothing on that centre there. Get in there and clean this dreadful grease off. When I did the training course for these in 1978, 1979 at HMV, they were moaning about the grease that BSR put on even then, and these were still just about in production, but it pertained to other products as well, which had the BSR record decks. This is actually this is difficult to get out. I'm actually going to put this in an ultrasonic cleaner with isopropyl alcohol. So I'm not going to show that on the video, but that's what I'm going to do, because that will not come off with methylated spirits. Right. So we'll put the lid on that. I can put the lower thrust washer back. What we're going to do is just take off this piece with another circlip. And then that pulls off. You can see we've got that notch to the top. And once again, we'll clean off and while we're going to be using the ultrasonic cleaner, I'm going to put that in the ultrasonic cleaner too. So we'll come back to the video when I've brought some oil, grease, and when these have been through the ultrasonic cleaner. Actually, I've decided to bring the ultrasonic cleaner across, and so there we've got the parts. If we're in there for 5 minutes, and now all trace of that nasty grease has gone, and the wonderful thing is it's gone from between the leaves of that actuator, which is so important. So we can put this straight back on. So as you can see, that is absolutely free. What we're going to do is that you can either apply some very light oil. We've started using a general purpose copper grease, but only very lightly applied. Okay, so we've got the oil across here. I want to put some down the centre. I want to put some on the ball race there. I want to put some down the motor shaft, and I need to protect the motor shaft. And I want to clean the stepped pulley, stepped motor shaft. I'll use the methylated spirits, and again I could also use the isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to apply a tiny piece of oil to my finger. And run that round there. Put the idler wheel back. And the thrust washer back. And the circlip back. I can do that with my fingers because I've got exceptionally strong fingers. You may need to use circlip pliers. So let's see whether that's moving. It appears to be on the right path. Okay, so it's time to put this. So I'm going to put a spot of grease on this. Well, a spot of grease has come out of the tube onto my little finger. So I just opened it up. I could use a pipe cleaner to make sure that goes round, but I'm happy that's going to go round. Now this can be tricky going back on. So I'm just going to wipe this grease off my fingers. And the table. So what we need to do is that needs to go into there, into the track. So we've got to get the spindle on there. So I'll just put some oil in the centre. And it doesn't always go, so let's see what happens. So this is a situation where it's not going to go. Because this is wanting to go further back than we can allow. I can get it in probably. No, it's not going to go. So we've got to pull that towards us whilst still putting that on the centre. I'll show you what I mean. I don't know whether we get, depends what we've got around the place. I've got a cable tie here. I might be able to do it with a cable tie. And I might not either. So I need to wrap that around there and pull on it. So we're moving that part towards us. And then put the cam on. It's gone straight in. Removes the cable tie. It's in properly. In one operation. Now, normally when you do demonstrations, they never go right, do they? So this is a case where it has. And we'll put the circlip back on there. So now that's all free moving and there shouldn't be any snag now when we put the thing back together. I'm going to put the circlip for the platter separately because we're not quite ready to put the platter on. So I'm going to move one or two things out of the way. I'll move the ultrasonic cleaner, the knackered loudspeaker, the oil, the grease, the methylated spillets, I can't speak today, and the service oil we haven't used, not service oil, the WD-40 we haven't used. So when you take these apart, when you take the chassis out, the transformer is left behind. So we can't run the chassis except in the cabinet, which is really frustrating. So this is the mains input, That's to the amplifier from the pickup, and that's the mains input. So what I'm going to do, hopefully, I could unsolder all this. Yeah, I was hoping to just put a chock block on there, and it's not going to be the case. I wanted to run this to prove it works. So what I think we'll do is we'll cut the wiring off the transformer. It's just across the transformer primary. I was hoping it was a pin connector. Do you know, I think I've only done one 2419 before, and that was when we did our demonstration about 6 years ago now. So I've got a really unsafe bit of mains lead here. So I've just got an old bit of mains lead to a mains plug and to a chock block. So we're going to connect that up and hope we can find a suitable screwdriver. So as you can see, that is now connected, and it's connected via our Hoppy device, so we can monitor the electricity. At the moment you can see we've got 234 volts and 50 hertz. So I'm going to put it back on its back flat, and we'll see whether we can get it to work and look at its adjustments. Okay, so we're going to power this up for the first time, and all that's going to happen, I'm going to switch it on and see if that motor runs. And the motor's running, I can hear it. So switch it off. So we'll put the platter on, but not the circlip yet. Oh, I'm just going to put some grease on the little cog there. I'll put a little tiny bit on one portion, and that will of course go round. There we go. Alright. First time run. Now what I'm hoping is that the lubrication I've applied will soon take effect. So I'll go and get a record from next door. We're not going to hear anything because we've got nothing, no amplifier, but it might just see whether we're putting down in the right place and that. So what I'm going to do now is to fit the spindle. I'm just going to run some WD-40 on this to clean it. And that will also act as a lubricant. I think that's in the right place. We'll soon find out. So once again, I'm going to run this. I'm going to run it at 45 just so the lubrication goes in quicker. No, I haven't had to help that. And you can see the turntable is still going round even though the power went off some time ago. Now this is not a record I'm trying to ruin. It's the Rotherhide organ, which was built by John Byfield in 1746 and restored by Noel Mander in 1959. So it's quite a nice record. We have some TAT records that we use for tests, but I will use this one because I'm not expecting this to be a record wrecker. So I want to hope that this is going to come down in the right place. So at the moment it's set for 7. We're going to set that for 12-inch record, set that for 33, and let's see whether it will auto drop. Now it may not drop first time, it has done, and still no help required. It's gone across. It's actually put down in exactly the right place. And I can hear that playing from the noise, you know, with the stylus. So what we're going to do is move the tone arm across very slowly, very carefully. I'm going to edit this so that you're not waiting about 1 minute from the end. So I'll edit the recording and hopefully that will auto stop and the tone arm will release. There's one thing, by not having an amplifier on this, we're not going to get any copyright strikes. I try and find really obscure B-sides to do these demonstrations, but then suddenly 2 years later you get a copyright thing. So I need to check the speed, not there's anything you can do about the speed because it's fixed. It's locked to the mains frequency and because of the type of motor it uses. But we will look at the speed with a stroboscope platter, and then we will just check the pressures because I want it to be under 4 grams but greater than 1.6, and then we're going to check the stylus under a stylus microscope to see whether we need to order a replacement. At the moment we've got the anti-skate control to 3.5, so theoretically the tone arm is going to be set at 3.5 with its counterbalance, but we'll see. And there we go, it's picked it up. Now we're going to run this for a few hours before sending it back to the customer, but even after one operation the lubrication has gone in there and it no longer needed any assistance by me to make the auto mechanism fully operate. It was just that first cycle which the lubrication was taking effect. So, and this is at 33 as well, and you could speed up the lubrication process by running it at 78. So I'm going to go back to the house and I'm going to get the appropriate tools to do the next bit. So the first thing we're going to do is check the weight. So use a stylus balance. These are $5.99 through somewhere like AliExpress plus a bit of post and VAT. So they're under a tenner. So I need to put the stylus on there. And it's 3.37 grams. And that's absolutely bang on the money. That's where we want it. So the anti-skate control's at 3.5. So your anti-skate control, which stops the tone arm moving inwards all on its own, otherwise they have a tendency to jump the grooves and go inwards all on their own. The anti-skate control needs to be set at the same weight as what the stylus pressure is. So that's nearly 3.5, and the little wheel at the back is also set to 3.5. So if that was 4, that would be 4. This is how it's set up. We don't have an instruction book for the 2419 model, to be honest, so if any of you out there have one and want to do me a scan, it would help subsequent customers. We've got every other model but the 2419. As I say, I've only seen one for repair once before, which we've done a video on, and we know that from talking to other engineers that there are problems with these speakers, as I've shown you on this video with the cones around, and it's so cheap. I know you can replace the surrounds, but I've not seen any super success on that, and the speakers are saying only about £14 plus VAT to buy anyway. So that's spot on. That's good news. So that saves a faff with it. In fact, you know, the fact it's put down in the correct place, it tells me that the thing's not being messed with, and that's great. So what we're going to do is pop the stylus out, because we don't want the customer to have to buy a stylus when we don't need one. This cheap stylus microscope, again, they're about a £5 off AliExpress. A bit of a faff to get out. So that's the stylus. I can't show you what I'm seeing through the microscope. I'm not that clever with setting these things up. You know what? It looks absolutely spot on to me. And it looks like it's one of those where you turn it over for 78. And I can switch my little microscope off. So it's stereo on one side and it's 78 on the other. You can buy these with LP on both sides, which would certainly suit me. And these are absolute sods to get in. I may have to do this off camera. Matter of getting it in the V groove of the actuator. It feels like it's in, but again, I'll look at that behind the scenes. So there we go. Platter's next, and now I've got a speed test platter. Now it's LED lighting in here, and I hope this is going to show. So I'll put it over the spindle, run it manually. We're at 33. The camera may be able to see it even if I can't. So theoretically, I mean, for me to look at this, I'm going to have somewhere with a fluorescent light. And one which is traditional, not an electronic ballast. So we'll put it to 45. We now should be looking at the centre. You've got 50 Hertz and 60 Hertz. We're on 50 Hertz mains for the 3 speeds. So the centre 2 are 45, which we're running at now. And then the inner 2 are 78, which is the speed we're running at now. So for me to test this, I'm going to have to look at this under a different type of light. So that's basically where this video is going to end. So I'll just press the stop button there, and I'll leave that on. As I say, I'll check that out behind the scenes. So there we are. That's the HMV Stereomaster 2419. I think this one's 1976 it was made, which was the final one of the Stereomaster range, and they've been doing since 1966. And it's the one which is the only one that has the speakers that disintegrate. So any of the earlier models, the speakers never need replacing, in my experience. Now, I've been servicing these since 1978-79. I was an HMV dealer in Yorkshire. That's why I was doing the training course. And believe it or not, I actually like them. I get some strange comments. People say, oh dear, the tuning spindles. There aren't any tuning spindles because they're all vari-cap tuning. They're all electronic tuning. So you can't say, what you can't do with any product, you can't say, well, I saw an HMV radiogram and there was something I didn't like about it, because we're not talking about their normal range of radiograms. It's like motor cars. A manufacturer has a range of cars and they go more and more luxurious. And they also have another range of cars that go more and more sporty. And so this has gone in one direction, and this was the top of the range in that direction, and that was the quality of reproduction. And then the radiograms went in another direction, and you could have a bottom of the range thing with a pair of very basic speakers and a 2-watt amplifier, and of course that's a very different beast to the top of the range ones they had with 4 shortwave bands and this and that. So they did it in 2 directions, and this was the top of the range in the quality of sound. You also realise that we took the chassis out. Mr. Chippy's doing that as we speak, and we're running another video at the same time. This will be part 1, and I'll upload this first. And he's doing all the capacitors and that, and there we go. And then part 3, when we put all this back together, the video will be finished when we actually get the speakers in 15 days' time. I'm recording this on, I think it's the 4th of June, so we know exactly where we are. It's right in the middle of this Queen's Platinum Jubilee, which is a fantastic achievement. And so it's a bank holiday, so ordering parts, as we did do yesterday, is going to take a little bit longer until people actually come back to work next week. So, but as far as the parts, we ordered the tweeters from China on a 15-day delivery, and of course that won't be affected by the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. So that's where we are with the HMV 2419. We're operating from the full service manual. We have the HMV proper service manual. We've also got the ERT service sheet we're working from as well. So there you go. I hope you've learned something from turning this trinket box, which is what it's been turned into, back into a radiogram. At least we've now got the record deck complete. I don't know, we're going to have to, as far as this slidey bit goes, I think we may be able to recover one. I think we've got one of these with a very sorry state keyboard. I can't get organs out of it. We're in here with the organ in front of me. You know, I can't get that out of my mind because that's what we're supposed to be doing instead of this. I think we can pinch one off that and compensate the owner of that, who is elderly, for that. So I think that's going to be the only way out of it. I'll suggest it to him, and because he doesn't have any value on the product, so that's or not much of a value anyway, so that could probably be recovered for a tenner. Thanks for watching.